Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. This is a VR video, and you can feel free to move around this space by either clicking with your mouse or swiping with your finger, and you can see how immersive this experience is. This is the chapel of First United Methodist Church in Pasadena, California, and this church building is 100 years old. Yes, it was built in 1924. The church congregation here goes back 150 years, so this year is their sesquicentennial celebration, and I'm recording this video in December of 2024. In today's video, we'll see the chapel organ here, as well as the sanctuary organ, which is much bigger. We'll also see some lesser-known areas of the church, like the church attics and the church basements. So, if you haven't already, focus your camera on the organ console, and let's get started. My name is Aaron Shows, and this is the chapel organ. Yes, we are in the church chapel. This church has two organs. I'm so lucky to be the organist here and have access to two organs by the same builder. I unfortunately don't know when this organ was installed. I do know that the system that is here on this screen was put in 2005. This organ, from what I understand, used to be a house organ, meaning it lived in someone's house. And I assume at some point was donated to the church here, and I'm not sure exactly when that was. I'm assuming around the 2000s, 2001, 2002, around then. It's in pretty good shape considering, and doesn't get used very often, actually. It's mainly used for weddings and for funerals that happen in this space when we have a smaller congregation size. But as you can see, I'm recording this in December of 2024, so it is Christmas time around here. But I thought it'd be kind of a cool thing to explain how this instrument is made up. And then I will take you on a tour of the other organ in the church, which is in the sanctuary, and also a little bit of the secret areas of the church that many folks that have been going to this church for decades do not even know about. So, this organ here, as you can see, has three keyboards or three manuals. This is the choir manual, this is the great manual, and this is the swell manual. So very much in the English style. Of course, the pedal board and the pipe chambers are up there, if you can see, on the left and the right side. There are grates here that speak into the room, as well as the grates that speak into each other, essentially. Now, grate as in like a vent that speaks to each other there. So, again, I don't use this organ very often, but it is quite lovely and has a number of applications. In particular, that this one is actually more advanced technologically than the one in the sanctuary. Which I do know more about that one than I do this one. But anyhow, you see the Skinner logo here. This organ has, since it was upgraded with a Peterson system, it has a built-in sequencer, meaning I can set presets and cycle through them quickly with these buttons. And it also has MIDI, as you see here, MIDI on great, swell, choir, and pedal, as well as a state-of-the-art floppy disk drive. So anyhow, I thought it'd be kind of cool to show you first a little bit of what this organ sounds like while we're sitting here. So, first things first, the swell division, all of these stops here, which is this top keyboard, consists of some strings. This is an organ strings sound. There are some lovely flutes in this as well. There's principal sounds, meaning foundational organ sounds. And let's see, I think that's about it for there. There's a trumpet here as well. Yes. All right, that's the swell division. Over here is the choir division. Actually, let's first go to the great division. The great division here is the middle keyboard. It's got a lovely 8-foot diapason. if I build up the full foundation of this manual. There's an 8, 4, and a mixture. There's no 2-foot stop on the grate here. The grate also has a harmonic flute. And both this and the grate and the choir actually have super couplers, which also include unison offs. And if you're an organist, you know what that means. But the sanctuary organ does not have unison offs, but that's okay. There are 4 and 16 on all of these manuals here. Now, the choir division quickly here has a dulciana that is kind of shared across the organ. The pedal has the dulciana as well as the grate. It's all from the same choir division. Very, very quiet. Also some flutes here, 8, 4, and 2. If I skip that and do 8 and 2. There's also a viola here at 8 feet. Very string sound. There's no celeste on the choir. There's a celeste on the swell. There's also a flute celeste on the swell. I forgot to mention that one as well. The flute celeste here is a 2 rank. That's probably my favorite stop on this organ, actually, is that flute celeste. All right, clarinet here on the choir. And I think there are some chimes here as well. So, pretty good selection considering. Here in the pedal division, you've got a 16-foot diapason. Now on your phone, you may not hear that as loudly, but with bigger speakers you can hear that. There's a 16-foot diapason. There's a 16-foot sub bass, even quieter. Then there's that dulciana I mentioned from the choir. And there's an 8-foot principal and an 8-foot flute also, as well as a 16-foot trombone. So there you go. That is this organ. Let me play quickly here a full organ sound for you so you can hear it in complete. Now we're going to go into the church basements. Follow me. As we leave the chapel, notice the stained glass windows on the walls. Originally, there was only one wall of stained glass windows, and the other was added later to match. And out these doors here, we go into the narthex, which is the space between the chapel and the sanctuary, which the doors are there on my right. We'll come back there later. But notice the Gothic arches over my head. Just a beautiful space here in this narthex. We're going to cut now to the cloister area. This is the space between the sanctuary and the education wing and the fellowship hall. The education wing being where they have these Sunday school classes and things. From here we pass these lemon trees. I've often taken a few lemons from them myself for tea. They aren't in season right now, but they will be fairly shortly. And through these doors here is the entrance to the church kitchen, right there on my right, and then the doors to the left go down to the basement, well, one of the basements. Every summer, the church puts on a musical theater production and has been doing so for over 50 years. And this basement is where they store all of their props and costumes. As I head down here, it gets to be very cold. It's a lot of just, cement. But there is a storage room around every corner down here, it seems like. And the first one here on my right is the prop storage room. And you will see here that it is a bunch of random props for the stage that they've used over the years. Doors and lamps and chairs and tables, all kinds of things you would see on a stage for a musical theater production. At one point in time also here, the youth used this area of the church, and there was a bathroom here on the left. When I hit these lights here, it gets very dark. There's a bathroom here on the left, and there are still stalls for that bathroom, but right now it's just a storage room again for paint cans and all kinds of randomness. So not really a useful room anymore, but anyhow, this church is full of storage rooms. From here we go to the storage rooms for the costumes, as well as the church archives. This room here that I'm going into is where the local Boy Scouts chapter used to meet every week. And now, as you can see, it's just a storage room for costumes and clothes, as well as this room here. Plenty of storage space. Once very active areas, but not recently. Up these stairs, we go to the cloister where we were before, which is that outside area between the church and the education wing and the fellowship hall. This is just a beautiful space, and in the summer months, when it's warmer out, it's nice to come out here and just sit and listen to the fountain and the birds. It's a very peaceful and meditative kind of area. This section here is the stairs down to the second basement of the church. Down here is a workshop, and if you've watched my live streams from home, the keyboards that I play are sitting on shelves that I built down in this workshop. This is a place where if you ever need to repair something or build something in the church, you would do that. There's a lot of scrap wood and scrap metal down here. Power tools, screwdrivers, hammers, all of that stuff. It's a great space to brainstorm ideas for future builds. This is also the heart of the church's electric grid, and when you walk out of here you can see the breakers on the wall. Lots of scrap stuff here like I've mentioned, and then there's this door on the left side. Where does that door go? It's a great mystery that we will never know. Well, here we are in the sanctuary. This is the main place of worship in this church, and this is the main organ of the church. Look up there and see that. There is such intricate woodwork on this case. This organ was put in 1924, the same year this building was completed. So the organ here as well is 100 years old this year. You can see the kind of gold facade pipes in the front here. Some of the pipes here actually are not facade pipes. Some of them actually do speak, are part of the organ. Anyhow, it was an E.M. Skinner organ, who was a famous organ builder in that time, 1920s, 1930s. And at the time, the organ, I think, had 55 stops, I believe. Now it has about 65 and over 3,000 pipes back there. Now, so what you see in the front isn't the full organ. This is just the front side. There are thousands of pipes behind it. So there were a lot of changes made to the organ here. And so put in 1924, then there was changes made in the 1950s, and then there were changes yet again made in the 1970s, I believe 1974. So 50 years after it was installed here originally. In 74, the main thing that was changed was they took pipes out of the dome. Now, if you look up above us, there is a ceiling up there with black circles in it. And those black circles are a room that used to house organ pipes. Now, up there is just remaining some chimes that I can control from here. Actually, I can play those for you right now. Maybe not that one works. Some of them don't work. It's very finicky. It's sending signals up into the dome of the church up there. But there used to be more up there than there is now. We'll see the chimes very soon here in this video, actually. I'll take you up there and you can see what they look like upstairs in the attic. But this organ has 4 keyboards, 4 manuals. And the pipes that used to be up in, by the way, I'm skipping ahead here. Pipes that used to be up in the dome up there in the 1970s were taken out and put in this case here. So going back into those organ chambers, it is a hodgepodge, I should say, of organ pipes everywhere. Some places are even impossible to get to because they're just sort of on a floating platform with no ladder to get to it. So they were tuned at one point in time, and then you just sort of hope they hold tune. No, we've had them tuned since then, but it's difficult to get to it. So anyhow, 4 manuals, 4 keyboards here, pedal board, 65-ish stops on this instrument. There is a choir division, a great division, a swell division, and a solo division. So let me take you through some of these stops, and you can see what they sound like. This is, to me, a very vintage American organ, and also just plays really well with English music on the organ as well. And so let me just start here with the swell division. This keyboard up here, as I did with the last organ in the chapel, there are some lovely strings on this instrument. There are some flutes on this division. And of course, the foundations, so 8, 4, 2-foot, and mixture. Then there are the reeds. And this division, like the choir division and the solo division, have super couplers and sub couplers. If you're an organist, you know what those mean, as I mentioned before, but there are no unison offs, so you have to use them as they are. So there's the solo division, great strings, great flutes, great foundations, also a flute celeste, as the chapel organ had, a flute celeste 2 rank. Really nice. Oboe, of course. All right, and moving along here, the Great Division has, of course, has two different foundations, two different diapason stops, two different principal organ sounds. This is an 8-foot of the first diapason. This is the second diapason. If I combine those and add the 4-foot and 2-foot and mixture, this is the great full organ sound, full plenum sound. All right. There is also an 8 and 4 flute on the grate here. All right, there's also some mutations. There's a 2 and 2/3 if I do that with those 8 and 4. All right, there's also a tromba on the grate here, which is a trumpet essentially. So comparing that to the swell trumpet, all right, now there is the choir division, and the choir division is the quietest manual on this organ here. I think almost too quiet, actually. I prefer it to be a little bit more present in the room. Speaking of the divisions, if you look up ahead, you can see how this is all organized. I'll point it out for you. So over there, this entire left section is the swell division. That's what all the stops that go on this keyboard are over there. There's 2 levels to it. Likewise, on the right side, there are 2 levels. The bottom level is the choir division that I'll play for you right now. And above that is the solo division. And then this entire middle section with the big 2 columns here inward are the great division. And then behind all that are pedal pipes, and they go as far as 32 feet long. The smallest pipe on this organ is on the choir division. It is the fife. It is 1 foot, meaning that the lowest pipe on this stop is 1 foot long, like a ruler, just 1 foot. That's what it sounds like. So the choir has an 8-foot flute, no 8-foot principal, has no 4-foot flute, but a 4-foot principal. So like I said, this is kind of a weird division. A 2-foot piccolo, so another flute there, no 2-foot principal. Anyhow, I can mix and match. So 8-foot flute, 4-foot principal, 2-foot flute, 1-foot fife. This is what this sounds like. That 1 foot 5 is just so nice. There are 2 mutations here. There's a 2 and 2/3 in the czar. There's a 1 3/5 mutation on here. There's a basset horn on here, an 8-foot basset horn. Very clarinet sounding almost. There is an Erzähler and an Erzähler Celeste, which is probably the quietest thing on this instrument. Just almost can go to nothing. And of course, with many Skinner organs, there is a harp at 8 and 4. Not really like a harp like you pluck. This is a harp like, essentially it's a celesta. It's a kind of like bell sound. There are tone bars, metal tone bars, like you'd play like a vibraphone or marimba, but more bell-like. It sounds like this. Really nice sound there. All right, and we have now the solo division. The solo division is, again, up in the top right part there. And we've got, first off, some strings up there that sound like this. There's an 8 and 4 flute. There's an 8-foot couple flute, and a 4-foot orchestral flute. I'll play them together for you here as well. Nice sound there. A French horn at 8 foot. Very warm sound. English horn. And now some more trumpets. There's a bombard, 8 foot. It's quite brassy. And the biggest stop on this organ, the tuba mirabilis, 8 foot. It has got its own wind line, its own wind pressure up there since it's so much louder than the rest of the organ. So it's very special. Here is the tuba mirabilis. And those are the major stops of the manuals. Now the pedal division has your usual 16/8 Ford mixture sound. Of course, there are also 16/8 for flute sounds here as well. There's also a 16-foot open diapason. Now, I don't know if the mics will capture this. This is one of the most present and ground-shaking stops on the organ, this 16-foot open diapason. Hear things rattling in the room. It's so present as a bass sound there. We have two 32-foot, one's a resultant and one is not, 32-foot principals. Well, one of them is actually a flute, not a principal. And then of course the reeds. So in the reed section we've got an 8-foot tromba, 16-foot trombone, and a 32-foot bombard. So the 8-foot sounds like this. I hope it's in tune. The 16-foot sounds like this. The 32-foot bombard with the other two make a really big noise. Again, I can hear things rattling back there. It's just so loud. So once again, this is a over 3,000 pipe organ. There are 65 stops, and all the pipes now are up here in the front. The only thing up in the dome remaining up there is the chimes. So, but I have used this organ extensively in recordings, and it is just a joy to play this every week. I can't believe how lucky I am to be able to play here every Sunday. But this organ does have general pistons. There is no sequencer on this organ. There are 32 levels of SSD memory on here. This console, I believe, was part of the 1970s changes that were made to the instrument. It is by Schlicker, actually, the console. And Manuel Rosales voiced this instrument in the 70s, and I believe this organ, when he voiced it in the 70s, was his Opus 1, which means it was his first organ that he voiced. Again, things have changed since then. Much of it hasn't been documented, actually, so there's a lot of things that I'm discovering as I'm here back in the organ chambers and stuff that I'm like wondering how this was done. I don't know why it was this way, and there's no receipts and there's no documentation of who did the thing, but it is up there. So the organ, the smallest pipes are the fife, the 1 foot pipes that are about the size of a ruler, and then the largest pipes are the 32-foot pedal pipes, some of which have to be turned horizontally because they're too big to go vertically in the room. So you can't see it from here, but behind the pipes is a big rose window, and just beneath that window, lying horizontally flat against the wall there are some 32-foot pedal pipes. There are also, so the 32-foot bombard, the reed, are also wooden pipes, and they're against the back wall. There are 7 reservoirs back there that hold air and compress it for the pipes. It's a lot of moving parts. It's a big machine. Originally, this room actually was not like this. It was always in the round, but this chancel area up here in the front, the organ console sat up on a platform up next to the pipes up there, as did the choir section. There was an entire wall here, and there were stairs on both sides of the wall that led up into the choir loft. And I believe that was changed at some point in the 80s or 90s, I think, here, where they kind of opened the choir loft into this sort of tiered arrangement here, where the choir is sort of more open to the people that are out there. This is I believe, 9-foot Steinway grand piano. Also very lucky to have that in here. The room seats 1,400 people, so that's quite a big seating capacity, 1,400. Let's see here, during the summertime, it's quite warm. There is no air conditioning in this room. There are 4 boilers in the corners of the room that can provide heat when it's cooler out, as it's getting slowly here in LA. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty hot in July and August in here. There are, I believe, plans to update that and put AC. And as you'll see very soon in this video, there is plenty of room in the attic if they wanted to install an air conditioning system. But it is again just a marvel of engineering, this place, and this organ is just so special to me. And I think it's amazing that people have come through this space for 100 years and been led in hymn song and all kinds of singing through this instrument. And yeah, hopefully there are 100 plus more years to go. Anyhow, that's a brief tour of this instrument that you see me play quite often. If you watch these live streams, it's always here at this instrument. I'm finally giving you a more wraparound view of this room, so feel free to pause the video if you need to and look around the space. But anyhow, that is it. Next, I'm going to take you into the church attic, and you'll get to see where that room up there is, where the pipes used to be, as well as we'll walk over the ceiling above us right now, and it is quite an adventure. So let's go. All right, from there we go to the church Great Hall, which is an old gymnasium kind of room, still used every week for various functions in the church. And it's specifically used also on New Year's Day, at least it was, I don't know if it's doing it this year, as a breakfast hall for people that are camping out on Colorado Boulevard for the Rose Bowl Parade. And now we are up in the first level of the attics, which is connected behind that stage you just saw. This is the ceiling, or above the ceiling, of the Great Hall where we just were, so just above the gymnasium. And as you can see, there are handles everywhere because it's kind of a awkward place to get into, but once we are in here, I'm going to bump my head there, as you see, and then we are standing above the ceiling of the Great Hall. While this area is totally safe, it always feels a bit odd that you're standing on a floor that is actually a ceiling. And if you were to fall through, it'd be pretty far, but it actually goes higher than this, as we'll see very soon. See if you can catch a glimpse of the Great Hall through the grates, G-R-A-T-E-S, in the floor through those fans. We are indeed above the ceiling. This next part here always feels like Indiana Jones to me because we have to crawl through the wall. So I will get down on all fours and do this here, and you will see that it's quite dark in there, but I'll hit the light switch in a second and we'll be able to see much better. We are currently right above the choir room area, but we're going to be going through here, crawling through. And this is the sanctuary behind this brick wall, and we're going to be taking another ladder here to go over it through another hole in the wall. More Indiana Jones for you. One-handed on the ladder. Here we go. This is a very steep space, so it was quite difficult to hold the camera and climb at the same time, but very interesting. Just kind of you're in the crawl space between the brick wall and the sanctuary. As we climb higher through here, we are now above the ceiling of the nave of the sanctuary. So you see how it kind of curves upward like this, just like the great Gothic domed ceilings in Europe. So we're walking on a arch shape here. As we go through this first room, it's going to get dark for a little bit, but you will see right in front of us there is a weird slanted kind of boxy room here. And that room used to hold organ pipes. I'm going to go over here and try to find a light switch, but it was a little tricky at first. Up in this room here, though, there are the organ chimes, which still do work, and just no pipes, but there is floor space if there ever were to have pipes here in the future. Again, very dark in here, but there are the chimes, and behind the chimes you can see there is another grate looking down into the room. I'll come back there in just a minute, but I want to walk you around first and show you the rest of the attics here. This again, we're right above the sanctuary. I can't tell you how many stories high this is. This is very high up. At least 4 stories high. So if I were to fall through here, it would be not fun. The last fall I'd ever take, probably. So you can see here along the walls there are these stairs leading up to these big fans, and this is kind of the makeshift AC system of the church. There's no air conditioning in there, but those fans come on at nighttime and they push out all the hot air from the sanctuary outside, and therefore if you open the doors down below, it will bring in the cooler air from the outside into the church. So that's kind of the way they've been cooling that room for a very long time. Check out the ropes on the floor there, as well as the remaining wind line that used to send air to the organ chamber up here. It's been blocked off, but maybe in the future at some point we'll put some pipes back up here to accompany the chimes. But in the meantime, we are right smack dab in the center above the sanctuary, up in the dome, and we will look down below. Feel free to pause down here if you want to get a better look through this grate. It's kind of hard to see. I wish I could have gotten the camera through the grate, but it's just too small. And that concludes the walkthrough of the church organs, basements, and attics. I hope you've enjoyed this experience as much as I have, and I look forward to doing more VR content like this in the future. It just really brings you in and feels very immersive, and we'll see what happens next. But for now, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.